history and I've heard his playing on recordings. There are very few people playing the timpani today that have the kind of symphonic history that he has. So it's really a very rare and unique thing to see somebody who has a virtual library of information about the literature that the drums are used in. He actually joined the Dallas Symphony in 1958. He graduated from the Curtis Institute, and I always heard that he was officially Fred Hinger's very first student. He just told me that maybe he was his second student. Certainly his most famous and most important student, I would guess. And he's also been the timpanist for the Pablo Casals and Marlboro festivals, which I think still pretty good. He would, let's see, he now teaches at SMU. I think that's it.
Thank you for the stellar introduction. Now, I'm not going to give a lecture today because I'm really very interested in what you folks have to say and the questions that you might have to ask. There's just a couple basic things that I'd like to establish from the outset. If I can beg your indulgence for a moment. This is a very great oversimplification of the different sticks that I use playing timpani. Basically, let's say hard, medium, soft. You can hear the difference, I hope. Now, would you humor me, please? Stand up, turn around, you cannot see what I'm doing. Yeah. There's a nice little excerpt by Saint-Saëns, the Bacchanal from Samson and Delilah. I want to play this two different ways, and you tell me if you hear any difference between them. Here's the first way. Here's the second way. Okay, turn around. You hear any difference? Yeah. What's the difference? Anybody?
The second one, the second example, the accents were more prominent.
What about the tone quality?
More soft.
Darker?
More fundamental.
More fundamental? Which were the harder sticks? Okay. Here's the first part. All right. Here's the second part. Softer, harder, same thing. What am I doing that's different? A couple of things. All right. First of all, most obvious is where you're playing the head. First time it's very close to the rim. Second time is farther out toward the center. Now there's some more subtle things than that. The grip, fewer fingers, will give you a lighter sound. Why? Because this is your main fulcrum when you play that way. If you want a darker sound, well, just listen. I'm going to hold the stick in the same place and play in the same part of the head. Just repeat the notes. I'm going to hold it back here. It's a different sound. Why? Because the stick is longer, there's more weight. Now you can't play this way and keep moving back and forth. What you can do is shift your main fulcrum from here to here. And that in effect gives you you a longer shaft to play with. Sometimes I'll even do something like this. It's a try unorthodox. But now by doing that, it, in effect, prohibits you from using just fingers because they don't work that way. You have to use more of the arm. Larger muscles will give you a larger sound. These are just some basic things. My technique is built around what I call a natural rebound. You can illustrate that by dropping a tennis ball and watching the speed of the rebound. This will give you the most open sound that the instrument can produce. Now we can do the same thing with the mallet. Just let it fall. And rebound at its own speed. You're disturbing the head as little as possible. The head is rebounding. It's like jumping on a trampoline. Now we can go either side of that too. We can use a little more lift to get a lighter sound, or play into the head to get a darker sound. Now what happens when we play into the head? We inhibit the natural rebound. By doing that, you're filtering out more of the upper overtones in the sound. Just like sunlight is refracted through a prism. So if I just do that, that's very dark. Now we can't play that way. But we can play playing into the head a little. It's very different from playing out of the head. Do you have any questions about any of this so far? All right, like I said, I don't want to give a lecture. I'd like to hear some of you play and get some dialogue going here. Who's going to be first? I have this set for me, so change it if you like. What are you going to play?
I'm going to play the
Tchaikovsky fourth? First movement? Yeah. Why don't we start 2 measures before T and just go to the before letter D. I'll do an A for the piano, but then it's an oboe. first time, there was just a little tendency to come in early with the next entrance each time you have one. You know, when you play an audition, sometimes it's the basic things that trip people up. And one of the basic things is counting. Be assured that anybody listening, an audition committee, listening to any instrument play, you're doing something like this. They're doing it inwardly, they're counting like a metronome. You have to do the same thing. It's extremely important. Practice with a metronome. Of course, when you get in the orchestra, throw it away. If you listen to a recording, just about any recording, put a metronome on and see how long it stays with the music. Live performance is not like that, but for an audition, believe me, it's very important. Do you have any questions about this?
Well, I actually, if and where would you use interpreters?
Good question.
I mean, for, two people, one for the orchestra and one audition.
Yeah, that's very true. Note lengths are extremely important. The drum's natural tendency is to ring. And that's the beauty of the instrument, but sometimes it gets in the way. It obscures the clarity of the passage. Sometimes it rings when everybody else is silent. So you have to know the repertoire very well too. It's never enough just to know your own part. You have to be at least familiar with what's going on at the same time you're playing. Now here, we're going to have these little isolated things. Bum, ba-dum. Just the way I said, bum, ba-dum. Play it. Yeah, exactly like that. Now, acoustics have a great influence on how much to muffle or don't muffle. If we play in a place that's very live, like we do in Dallas, Myerson Center, sometimes it rings so much that no matter what you do, it's very difficult to achieve clarity. So I find myself muffling a whole lot in that type of environment. If we play outside of the parks, there's no reverberation at all. Let the drums ring more. Now this is not just for timpani. This is, this is an orchestral approach. And you rarely hear a conductor say anything like this. They're too busy pondering the musical message. To talk about things like acoustics. But we have to think about it. Also, something else that I like to do here. When you get to this, bring out the rolls a little more than the notes of the downbeat. Yeah, ba, ba, ba. It gives it more momentum. The beats will take care of themselves. Ba, ba. And the same thing when you get to the rhythm. Ba, 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 ba. It's a feeling. Ba, 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 ba. I had a terrible time with this piece when I was a little boy. Because I listened to recordings of it long before I ever played it. And I would hear this as that's where our little beat was. And the first time I saw the part, I said, this can't be right. The part must be wrong. I had to relearn the whole thing, mentally. Da, 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 da. Now, once you're comfortable doing that, and it takes a little while, then you can bring out the notes after the beat. Ba, 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 ba. So you have to do two things. You have to be very certain where the beat is. You have to feel it inwardly. When you do that, then you can make some more music. Casals used to say, don't play notes. What does that mean? Well, go beyond the notes. Look beyond the notes. Because the music isn't here. It's just kind of a blueprint. It's what you do with the insight that you bring that makes it music. Anything else I can help you with those?
I guess, yeah, I have a question. Do you measure those rolls up?
No. Tchaikovsky, in his notation, to my knowledge, never uses the TR, tremolo designation, like some other composers. When he wants a roll, he always puts lines through the stem of the note. there's some schools of thought that say, well, you should take this literally, it should be measured. It doesn't work. Well, for instance, here. Now, literally, with 30-second notes. But who's gonna be able to count it? You can't even play it that fast. So it's a roll. Whenever you see this in Tchaikovsky, think roll. Unless, of course, it's one line. If there was stem, it's 8 notes, of course. Abbreviations. Don't be afraid to take liberties with things. If it sounds better, go with it. I'm not a purist. But, you know, there's a middle ground between being faithful to the composer and doing what you think the intent of the composer is, which is not just playing notes.
Well, actually, it was, see, I think it was 5. So
You can play the roll shorter there. The problem with deep ringing, it'll sustain.
That, yeah, that's
Yeah. Now, you don't have to play it through. Sometimes by doing that, it makes it less clear, and you run the risk of being late and getting behind. Just, you know, get off here. Like that. It'll sustain. Yeah. Sounds good, doesn't it? Now, there's one other thing, we're talking about Tchaikovsky. This has always been a big problem for me over the years. Because when you start this passage up here, it's like a waltz that's coming from a distant room. And it has to have the illusion of distance. And when you get down here, suddenly it's just like a thunderstorm. There was always a problem finding the right stick to get both of those qualities. Now, admittedly, you can do a lot of things with the hands and with the sticks. But you can do even more if you had the opportunity to change sticks in here. Now, how do you do that?
What's the song?
Yeah. Have you ever seen me play this? We have to overcome a psychological barrier here. The way this is printed, bump, ba-dum, bracketed together, then another bump, ba-dum, then a bar line, then bump, ba-dum, like this. And it's like watching boxcars go across a river. Bump, ba-dum, bump, ba-dum, bump. Now, there are places in the movement where he does do this. Bump, ba-dum, bump, ba-dum, bump, ba-dum, bump, ba-dum. But when you have this extended thing, this gets so tedious. This should be a dance. Now, if this were written differently, it might be very hard to read. But think of the music. How does this start? It starts with the oboe, right? Ba-dum-bum, ba-dum-bum, ba-dum-bum. It's always ba-dum-bum. So instead of thinking, it's that. Now there's something else we can do to break the tendency of hearing, to lay the 16th a little bit. You can't write things exactly the way you want them to sound all the time. The ear is a better judge. So instead of that, and thinking of ba-dum-bum, changes the whole character, don't you think? Yeah. Play it again. Like their housekeeping. Ba-dum-bum, ba-dum-bum. Be careful of this. Placement of the last eighth note in that measure with the ball. Yeah, and then the last note, a little less. Just the music kind of retreats a little after that. Again, all these things are never music. But listen to recordings, go to concerts, and then you'll see what your traditions are. Two from that section. 1, 2. Little separation. Place the last note. Closer. Get off the whole slur. Not yet. That's better. All right. These are little things to work on.
Okay, so you want to go ahead and read a more noticing space.
Yeah. It'll still be connected because the drum is still sounding. You don't have to roll all the way up again. You do it. It's a the next note. It's not just the end of the wall. More. All right. Do you have anything you want to ask about this?
Could you talk about phrasing the second section with
All right, here you go.
the section here, just the way that you approach that rhythm and the way
Okay. Yeah. Very dangerous. Long crescendos. Starts at piano, winds up at fortissimo, at 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 or 12 measures. There's always a tendency, not just for Timpanists, but for any orchestral player, with a long crescendo, you give too much too soon. You have a long way to go. Case in point, standard parte bolero, which we all know and love. And if you get loud too soon, there's no place left to go. Hold it back. Sometimes you'll see in the part makes a crescendo, there may be two straight lines that diverge. Instead of seeing those lines the way they are, I prefer to think of the profile of the trumpet. It's just a little bit, and then the very end it widens out into the bell of the instrument. I like to think of a long crescendo that way. Just a little bit, and save most of it for the end. It's a lot more effective. Is that what you're referring to?
That's what we're doing, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Still like the crescendo.
Okay. One last question about the same section of space between the 16th note and the 4th note. In the past, I've tried to mathematically deduce where to put the note in 4 so that it comes in exactly in between key 3 and 4. And I found that caused me to praise it terribly. And just right here. So the trumpet, recently I've been trying to loosen that up so that it breathes a little bit more. It felt like very compact, sort of mechanical.
Know what you feel. Because again, you can't write everything. You know, it's like a simple ride rhythm. You see that notated. It's going to work at a certain tempo. If you change the tempo one way or the other, it's going to be a little different. The same thing with anything here. And there's shades of differences that you cannot notate. And if you could, nobody could read it. It'd be impossible to read. It's like dynamics. Another thing, what are there, 8 or 10 dynamics? Let's say from 3 B's to 3 F's. Mezzo piano, mezzo forte. What does it mean? What's loud and what's soft? Let me try to. Let's count these levels, starting with 1. What section would you like to play? All right. Whenever you're ready. It helps in counting this rather than just one bar after another. This helps immensely. Let's play this next section, starting with letter F and going to letter H.
That would be as follows.
All right, I think there's some cute rhythmic inaccuracies here. The rest. Right. The difficulty in this is getting the clarity on the low F. Now, is there a reason you prefer this drum to this one?
Yeah.
What is that?
Well, first, as you said, the clarity, that would be the issue. Maybe it's just playing myself in this situation, it might be kind of not good tone, good sound, but maybe maybe in the context of the orchestra, that's one problem.
Well, the problem I've always found with this, doing it this way, there's nothing wrong with doing it this way. There are many ways to do it. The F on that drum is just about the top note, and the low F here is just about the bottom note. So we're getting two very different tone colors. One is very bright and speaks very quickly because there's more tension on the head, and this sometimes is a little flabby. There's less tension, relatively. I think the two F's would match each other more if the low F were put on this drum. Now, with this said, we have different bowl shapes, so we can't really be objective about it. But you understand what I'm getting at. And there's something else we can do that I've found very helpful on occasion. Let's see. Put an F here. It's the hardest thing to do in a unison for any instrument. Okay. Let's see something here. Just think they match each other a little better. And there's also the problem of the but-up, because they're so close together. Sometimes it'll come out like that. The first stage maybe has a little more weight to it. The second note will be lost. Now, what about playing one note with the drum? That way you know they're both going to be heard. It has to sound that way. There's something to think about. Now, this measure with the triplets, that's what it would sound like with that tempo. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's 1, 1, 1, 1. Nobody's going to be able to count them. If you try to get them in, you run the risk of being late, getting off on the downbeat. Forget about it. Think about it as a roll. So. That way you can go off downbeat exactly where it should be. If you can do it, fine. You know, you're a young guy, your hands are good. But I'm just telling you from experience, sometimes it goes faster than this. 1, 1, 1, 1. Get 9 notes in 1. From there to there. I can't do it. I'm still working. And then when you get to this, the repeated notes, there's a problem built in here whenever we have a 3 feeling, because we play with 2 hands. Now, no matter how good our hands are, one is going to be a little more developed than the other, in most of us. The sticks are going to be a little So there's always a problem if you're playing 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, as it goes up. There's a parallel that I can draw with string players. My wife's a violinist. And I think for most string players, the down bow naturally has a little more weight to it than the up bow. So the same problem appears here. Prelude back to a moment. The strings are perfect. And so much of the time, what I hear is I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it's that idea. Well, that's what the string players figured out. What we can do here, instead of just playing alternate, keep the pulse going. Like that. So. Like that. Yeah. Let's try it again. Yeah. It's a nice piece. This whole thing through there. That one is a reasonable level. How many minutes? One too much. Yeah. Very good. It's a good idea. They are numbered, aren't they? Sometimes, just over the first one, put a 1, parenthesis 1, dash 11. And you know how many measures you have to play. That way you don't have to be glued to the part constantly. So it helps. And sometimes you'll have some of the repertoire, you'll have a long roll that can go on 30 or 40 measures. And you just look at the part, and there's one goose egg after another. And after a while, where am I? Lovely. It helps. Anything else I can do for you? Okay? Thank you very much. drum you play last, it's muffled first. You work your way back. But something like this, I don't know if I've ever thought about it here. It's just one of these things. Whatever works. Get rid of the sound. It's very nice. Maybe the first entrance just a little less. Okay. The one that's forte. That way the fortissimo is even bigger. Do it again. It was so nice. In the system. Now, anybody notice where he marbled during this passage? Just do the first figure. Right. The most important note to get rid of is that one. Because ba-bum, you're going to B flat to C, and what you don't want it to sound like is get rid of that B flat. That's the most dangerous one. The others are separated a little more from the intervals. With the major secondary, zero problem. Let's go on to the next one. Let's check the pitches. How about the very last one after the A flat roll? Okay. Rests, the rests. Right. The rests of the dangerous, you know that. And you know that whenever you have the half rests there are two quarter notes in the rests. You ever play this with an orchestra?
I played Vanguard.
Okay.
I never played it with
How's it different?
There's really not a whole lot of difference because even the orchestra is pretty big and heavy. I mean, there's not a lot of.
The tunings are the same.
Right,
Okay.
the part is identical.
All right. Be careful at the very end. Again, decrescendos. You know, like I spoke earlier about crescendos. If you come down too soon, there's nowhere left to go.
Well, he starts it here, and here he marks mezzo forte.
Yeah,
Is it better to move over to here?
I think so.
Start at crescendo.
Yeah, delay it a little more. And it's a very nice effect if you can make sure that one is softer than that. So that the last is the softest of all. So do that whole thing again. Same place before the three measures. Here's the tempo. 1, 2, 3. Very nice. That's good. That's good. And unless the conductor asks for a retard at the end, right? Exactly like a metronome. It's like a clock. You know, you're just walking away from a whole bunch of clocks going, but they're still keeping the same time. All right. Anything else?
Do you, with muffling, would you muffle here or is it let it ring through it? There's not a lot going on.
I would probably get rid of the sound since it's 3 measures there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that one probably not, really like this one, this is going to be.
Not as necessary, no. It's hard to know in advance.
Right.
You know, you have to wait until it happens and then see. Yeah, I don't like to have too many rules
Right.
because sooner or later you wind up breaking them.
Right.
Let me just say something about muffling, you know, not as it relates to this so much, but you mentioned the idea of muffling. Just, okay. Long note, short note. Now, there are many degrees in between. The important thing to me, whenever it's possible, is to pay very careful attention to the release of the note. I mean, the beginning, it's just very well defined, that'll take care of itself, but the release, I'm not a singer, but I don't get over here a singer release a note like, oh, not like that. It's like somebody's going like this. Now, I really don't like that sound at all. It's an unmusical sound, and it becomes part of the rhythm. Taper. A long note has a decay, and a short note should also have a decay. Not this musical sound. Now, how to achieve it? Well, first of all, put all the fingers down. The sound's going to stop right away. What works for me is to start with the little finger just about on the rim, and then in slow motion, each one gets put down. It's kind of a rolling motion. So much nicer than that. Now, a lot of times you can't do that. Like we said earlier, you just have to. But whenever you can, all right? Something to cultivate. Word releases. Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else? Any volunteers? Everything you always wanted to know about Timpani. because sometimes the best player might be right out of school. And experience itself is no guarantee. So I don't know what the answer is. It has to be a very strong desire to do this in the first place. I think bordering on an obsession, and maybe even an obsession. Now the price you pay for this is that you're going to have gaps in the rest of your education. I was fortunate. I went to the Curtis Institute, which is a conservatory. In theory, your mornings are devoted to practice. In the afternoon, you have lessons. And a very smattering of academic work. It's a conservatory. It's focused on one thing, playing the instrument. Now, when I got out of there, of course, I was fortunate. I got a job. I had the time to put in to work on this. When you go to a university, you have a lot more academic work than I ever had. And this is going to cut into your practice time. So, it's a choice you make. Do you want a well-rounded education? Or do you want to get a job? You know, it's not that simple. But it takes a total commitment, really. Because the competition is fierce. When we had our last percussion auditions, when Daniel Florio got the job in our orchestra as a member of the percussion section, I don't remember how many auditions we heard, but in the preliminaries, but the semifinalists, I think, were maybe 5 or 6. And then it got down to 2 or 3 finalists. Any one of the finalists would have done a wonderful job. How do you choose? Well, like I said earlier, use your imagination. You know, it makes you different from everybody else, and you should be. We want carbon copies. I don't want any of my students to imitate what I do. I can help them do what they do better, give them ideas to work with. You have to be your own player. Use your imagination. This is what separates one player from another. Listen to it yourself. Listen to different soloists playing the same piece. They're not all the same. Now, it might turn out that your style of playing is not what the orchestra is looking for. It's easy to say, don't take it personally. But sometimes it's a blow. You think you deserve a job and you don't get it. Well, lots of others are the same boat. So what advice can I give you? What can I say? You can say something.
I can say something.
This is my wife.
I happen to be on the audition committee for the percussion writers in a long time, but less than
Speak louder.
Oh, well, I can say one thing. Back in the old days, you could have a conductor looking for a particular sound, looking for somebody who had that sound, and there would be an action, he would figure it out. And now you have to unfortunately play for a committee. And first of all, you're not going to please everybody on the committee if you have any style in a way. I always feel like the string players have to be like typewriters, you know. So first of all, you're going to have all your technique and your rhythm and all the basics are going to have to be right on. And after you get past the preliminaries and you pass this whole committee, and then the conductor gets involved, you might be looking for a style, then you can show your style more. So not only do you have to have your own style and confidence to get to that point, but you've got to, first of all, pass that committee with all those different types of opinions, and therefore your basics have got to be right on. And that's probably the most important thing you can get anywhere in an audition in the first place, to have all your basics, you know, perfect as far as you're concerned. And the other thing, boy, for myself, nerves kill you. So you just got to steel yourself and pretend there's nobody out there, or just not care that they're out there and play for yourself.
It's a hard thing to do because, most of us at some point, when we play the to me when I listen to an audition, whether it's timpani or any other instrument, is beauty of tone. A beautiful sound. Because I don't care if somebody has technique to burn. If it's not a beautiful sound, I don't want to hear it. Sound is so important. Cultivating a beautiful sound. That should be one of your goals. And how to do it? Trial and error. If you're a timpanist, you try different approaches to the instrument, different types of mounts, different techniques. A lot of the ideas I get about playing are away from the instrument. Sometimes when I'm lying in bed, maybe before I go to sleep, I'll be thinking about maybe an interpretation of a certain passage or how to accomplish something technically. It's a very good time to do that because you're not distracted by anything else. It all starts up here. It's a mental process. You create mentally, and then you create physically. But it has to start mentally. Otherwise, you're just spinning your wheels. Does that help at all? Does that make any sense? What else can I tell you?
I play the in case you're not.
How to what?
Play the Beethoven violin concerto part.
Beethoven violin concerto?
Yeah, your part.
These? We get an A. How do I play it?
Well,
You know, this is the kind of thing. If you see this, and if you see the music, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 4, 4, 5 quarter notes in a row, even a down, a D. No, anybody can do that. You know, think about it. Beethoven violin concerto, first of all. Whenever I see this on the list, it's one of those things that catches my attention every bit as much as something like Rite of Spring. Because I think it's hard. Getting the right sound, well, all it is, no, if you're satisfied with that, I guess that's good enough. But what I like to do, if you can get the movements to cooperate with you, come in the second measure, the D major chord, is, first of all, instead of playing 4 even notes, I like to lead it. I won't call this a crescendo, because that gives the wrong idea. But, call it whatever you want. And I like to place that downbeat. Can't always do that, because people tend to take what they see literally. But it's such a nice effect. You're getting the same quality on each drum. Sometimes this helps. Makes a difference. But it has to be subtle. Subtlety is the key. Yeah, that's the danger, with some ideas. Say, well, if that's good, then more is better. No, less is better. Is that what you're getting at? Beethoven?
I just know how much you care about it.
Oh, it's one of those pieces that has such an aura about it. Well, Rite of Spring does too. But things are as challenging as you want to make them. And how many times have I done Beethoven Fifth in my career? I don't know. But there's always a danger in putting it on autopilot. Say, Beethoven Fifth again, okay. do to make it better? It should be better each time. Sometimes the conductor can help. Sometimes the conductor can do damage too. We did this fairly recently with our principal guest conductor, Peter Flora. And he said something about this that I've always felt. That whenever you have to figure, and we all know a bit of the fifth, pa 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 pa, pa 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 pa. Instead of going the pa, it's always pa 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 pa. The energy starts before the downbeat. Instead of, well, that's pedestrian. This gives it an inner movement, and it makes the music come alive. Things like that. Again, imagination. And there's a wonderful moment, again, this will be on just about every audition list. And that's the, if anybody knows the Timpani part, let us see in the third movement. It starts out, listen to repeated notes. And this goes on. Violins have this. And where is he going with this? This is just like the mists. And then finally, finale. Now, again, what do you do with that? It's pianissimo, but it has to be the kind of pianissimo that you can feel. Not just hear it, you have to feel it. It has to have that kind of intensity. So, let's see. Is there any difference? Can I do that? Trial and error. Try things. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. If you don't try, you'll never know.
Why don't you share us a couple of examples where you learned it using fingers?
Fingers? You need to play? Well, I'm going to do that much if you want. The scherzo, Mendelssohn, Midsummer Night's Dream. There's the timpani has that figure later in the piece, and normally you would just play that. And there's no time to do anything like that. Now the drums I was using at the time, I just tried this. And that's the sound that worked. Probably people, look at you from the audience. What's he doing? I'm trying to get the sound out. It won't work on every drum, on every bed, but it's another option you have. Again, like I said earlier, sometimes I'll even hold the stick like this to get more muscle behind it. They're all subtle differences. Many shades involved in this. Questions? Yes, sir.
Can you talk a little bit about taking the slack out of the drum and what that does?
Taking what?
Take the slack out of the drum.
Slack?
Yes.
You mean clearing your head?
Yeah. Taking the slack out before you tune.
You're putting it in?
No, just like before you tune pitch.
I think he's coming up in a pitch as opposed to coming down.
Oh, okay. Well, if you ever listen to a violin solo, it's tuning up before a solo. Right? They always tune it up from below. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, just to make sure that there's no string left on the other side of the bridge. Otherwise, when you play loud, it's going to go flat. Same thing here. If I tune down, you want to be extra sure, you do that too, and upset it. But, you know, gentle, you know. Okay, from one to the bottom, gentle. Is that what you have in mind? Questions? Yes?
Throughout Timpani literature, there are certain figures that just kind of...
A little louder, please.
Sorry. Throughout Timpani literature, there are certain figures that just kind of puzzle me a little bit. And one of them would be, in Pines of Rome, the staccato, notes scripted in fours, with the slur shown as being over here before, and each of those notes are staccato.
Right, notation things, you mean,
Yes.
like dots and dashes and lines. Well, I just wonder how many composers really understood the nature of the instrument that they were writing for. You'll see this a lot in Timpani parts. Dots, lower notes. Well, if you take them literally, that means staccato. Well, let me say something. I'm glad you raised this because it brings up something else about the idea of staccato. There are timpani sticks on the market that are called staccato timpani sticks. They're really not. I mean, normally when you see a staccato timpani stick advertised, it's going to be a harder kind of stick. Let's say, instead of this, well, staccato means short. I mean, is this going to be a shorter sound? No, it's not. What they are really are marcato sticks. Marcato has to do with the beginning of the sound, how one sound is marked, how distinct the sound is from its inception. Staccato is short. Now you can play staccato with a soft stick. But a lot of times you'll have a series of notes with dots over them, and it's just impractical. Or if it's, you know, you're on 2 or 3 drums. In that case, sometimes you just have to substitute the idea of marcato for staccato. Now there are cases where it's possible to use a mute on the head for certain effects. We just did Mahler's Symphony a week ago. The beginning of the 3rd movement was a double bass solo. Now it doesn't say anything about marcato or staccato. What it says is gedämpft in German, which means damped, muted. Mahler wanted a certain effect, I suppose. A somber effect. So that's a whole other thing. I try to be faithful to what I think is the intent of the composer. But sometimes they just didn't know what they were doing. And yeah, what does it mean when you have dots over a note and then a slur at the same time? I mean, do both? I mean, just forget the whole thing. Do what you think sounds right. Questions? Yes?
How many pairs of sticks do you think it's necessary for students to learn?
Oh boy. Yeah, how large is your budget? Basically, like I said earlier, soft, medium, and hard. But there are obviously many degrees in between. And in addition to that, there's also the idea of weight, light, medium, and heavy. A light, hard stick is going to be very different from a heavy, hard stick. Let's see. Well, these are fairly hard here. And these should tend to be on the medium to heavy side. We're doing Mozart overture Don Giovanni tonight. And given the style of Mozart, I like something that's going to speak clearly. So these are clear. But the sound is just a little heavy. So I think this is more of a timbre for Mozart. So it depends on what your needs are. You know, for a student, I understand that most of you are limited budgets and there's a limit to how much you spend. Soft, medium, and hard, and go from there.
that all the time. We have it.
Okay.
Did you have a good Pablo Casals story that you could tell us? Or a composer story that you
The doctor story maybe? All right, a number of years ago, we had a guest conductor who shall remain unnamed. We were doing Shostakovich's Fifth Symphony. Imagine most of you heard this. The last movement starts out with a big three. Bum, bum, bum. Anyhow, I played something like that. And then he stopped. Do you have any harder sticks? Well, that sounds pretty good. All right. We went through this a couple of times. Finally, I was getting a little irritated. He said, "Are those the hardest sticks you have?" And I said, "Well, I have some new ones that I'm making." And he just smiled. He said, "But the concrete isn't set yet." The whole orchestra broke up and it didn't bother me anymore.
Thank you so much, Cal.
I should say